G'day! My name is Mbogalo, and welcome back to Let's Play Star Trek Online. This week, I believe I mentioned at the end of last week's episode, I'm planning on finishing up the last of the tutorials in Star Trek Online before I get started on the next major mission. And most of these will actually be back at Starfleet Academy, not Starfleet Academy, but down at Earth Space Dock. So let me just pick these up. And then I will talk about these missions as they come up. So because this set of missions is going to end up being primarily me just running around the galaxy, I won't bother changing the ship. So, for the next video, you get to see the nice classic Enterprise for a little bit longer. And honestly, I won't be changing them all too often anyway, because I'll be keeping this ship until I hit level 10 and then get my next rank. Although with the rate things been going, it may not be that long before I hit level 10 anyway. Alright. So it's not useful now, but I'll mention it once I load back into the game here. But this is actually something that existed since the game's launch, but it was not as nice of a system until fairly recently. But there is a transwarp network within the galaxy, and this basically acts like the Hearthstones in, say, World of Warcraft. It basically allows you to warp back to defined locations, and they're really limited in the places that you can go to. For the most part, it's going to be your home base, or if you are part of a fleet, then you can go to where your fleet starbase is. However, as you progress in level or in various other rankings, then you can gain the ability to warp to different locations. Or if you have certain ships, these ships will give you the ability to instantly transwarp to other locations as well. Alright, so the first one of these missions that I will do is just over here. So this first set of tutorials is basically teaching you about here we go. Something they added a while ago is the notion of difficulty levels, and as you play missions, you can opt to play them on basically normal, hard, or elite, and the higher difficulty levels give better loot drops, but they also have drawbacks. And not only are the enemies harder, but there is the ability for you or your ship to, your officers or you, to get injuries, which will reduce their performance. So this tutorial is basically just talking about this in general. So you can see, what are injuries, what are these regenerator things all about. The regenerator items, what these are is they will allow you to remove, without having to come back to the starbase, you can remove injuries from yourself or from your officers. And minor, major, and critical will all recover various types of injuries. And the way the system basically works is that every time you get defeated, you have a chance of gaining a minor or a major injury. And as these injuries stack on you, then you start getting a chance of getting critical injuries. And basically, the tier of injury that you receive affects how big the debuff on you get. For the most part, I only play on normal, so I never see injuries anyway. So then next, so since I'm here, the guy tells me about, hey, you should go talk to the guy who will repair your ship injuries. Now, the guys, so both the chief medical officer there and the chief engineer that I'm about to head to, these guys will fix all injuries for a money cost. But you need the regenerators or components, which I'll be getting from the engineer here, if you want to repair them out in the field. Oh, and then right here, he'll send me to the a fellow in the middle of the starbase, which is where I'm going to anyway. Oh, excuse me. And then they'll tell me about difficulty levels. Yep. So here's just saying, hey, if you go into options, you can see various settings for how you want to set your mission difficulty. And like I said, normal is the default. You won't get injuries if you get defeated on normal. But the loot drops are all going to be normalized. If you play on hard or elite, then you do get a chance to get injuries if you get defeated, but your loot chances will be better. And you can just ask questions like, difficulty level does not affect PvP at all. If you're in a team, it goes by the lowest person on the team. Oh no, sorry, it's set by the team leader. So whoever the team leader is defines what the difficulty level of the whole team is. So all pretty straightforward stuff. Alright, so the next, sorry, I said that the next tutorial one I have here is up this way. Talking to Lieutenant Commander Egen. He wants to be called Egg. Who is named that because he is an egghead. Also, his name is kind of something like that. Anyway, he wants some help. So he just wants me to carry some samples to Memory Alpha. Which, hey, that won't be a problem at all. And then before I leave, I got one other person to talk to on the starbase, and then I will head out and drop off stuff at some of these locations that I have to go to. So the last tutorial is about commodities. Commodities are one way for basically one way for the game to represent the Federation's primary goal of going out, exploring, and helping people. So what commodities are? They are basically stuff, things that you can collect, and they are basically only used for trade. There are things like shield generators, provisions, medical supplies, things like that. And you can buy commodities from commodity traders at the various star bases around the galaxy for a discount, and each commodity trader has a different set of commodities that they will sell at a discount. Or you can just replicate them on your ship for a slightly increased cost. So you can see here how I've got the whole list of them there. Generally though, once you start getting settled into the game, you will have more energy credits than you will know what to do with, so it's not a big deal to just buy the commodities when you need them. So anyway, so now that this commodity broker has given some explanations about what commodities are, there's a small mission about which will show us the which is basically the first example of taking these commodities and using them to support someone who needs them. So in this one, like it's also explaining that hey, shield generators are produced here, so you can get them for pretty cheap. And okay, so it's just, so and then as part of it, there's just a second one to just hey, take the shield generators instead of needing to actually buy them. But while I'm here, oh, and it's just hey, just to let them know. While I'm here, I'm just going to sell off some of the junk I have. But not the shield generators. Okay. So what they want me to do with these generators is to just head out into the Delta Volantis sector, which is just next to where I am now, and then find a planet that needs some shield generators. And I know that they changed how this whole thing works a little bit, so I'm going to be interested in seeing if this quest even still works. Okay, yep, still works. Alright, so we'll do this one. We'll do this one first because it's right here. And ships look really good in this game. You may be noticing that some of the ships that I fly by have kind of strange colors associated with them. Some of the item sets that you can get in this game actually apply visual styles to your ship, which is really cool. Alright, so this is what's called a... they basically call this a anomaly area. The way these areas work is that each one of these anomalies we can see is basically a randomly generated mission. And for the purposes of this, actually I'll call and see. Yep, so here we go. So there are daily missions to complete a certain number of these missions. Just go in and do random missions in these clusters, and then this one's just hey, go and check it out. Oh yeah, so this one's hey, explore 3 systems, and the missions like they aren't difficult, but they can be a little long. And just for the purposes of this week's update, I'm not going to bother doing a bunch of them. Yeah, so what'll happen is you just warp in. Okay, I don't think this is the mission I want. I mean, some of these random missions are going to be like really short. Just run around an area, scan things, or run around an area and shoot enemies, or aid very rarely are any of these going to be very involved. And I don't think this is the mission type I want. So if it isn't, then I'm just going to warp out of here and try again. Okay. Yeah, so this one is actually just to head in and scan stuff. There might not have been combat, but like I said, I'm just wanting to get through this update relatively quickly. So let's try again. It's taking a while to load. Okay, there we go. Okay, yep, here we go. So this is the mission I was looking for. So because the mission pop-ups just straight up said aid the planet, I know that this is the type of support mission I'm actually looking for. So again, it makes sense that you warp out so far away, or you warp in so far away from the planet, but it's sometimes just a pain to just sit here for a minute at full impulse as you try to get close to the planet. It's not even improved much when you get so as you go up in ship class and equip higher level engines, your impulse speed does in fact go up, but it doesn't seem to like, even if I was going at twice the speed I am now, it still feels like it takes forever. Okay. So, you know, aid the planet missions are basically a guy pops up and says, hey, we really need something. And these guys want provisions instead of shield supplies. Which, whatever. I can afford to just buy myself. Excuse me. 10 provisions. Right here. I got it. And that automatically completed the mission to provide aid to a planet as well. It's a nice thing that not all missions need you to talk back to the quest giver. Some of them will just straight up give you the rewards for doing it automatically. And that was a nice one. All right, so next I'll head off to Memory Alpha to do the next tutorial. So Memory Alpha is in the Alpha Centauri sector block. This is the only time until you reach the next rank that you will need to go into this sector block, because Now, thankfully, there's no reason, there's nothing that prevents any player from just going into any sector block that they are too low level for, because it's not like there is random encounters, so to speak, but they aren't in your typical MMO fashion. They basically show up as points on the map, and you have to opt to go into them and engage the enemy. Oh, flying by Wolf 359, the site of the first large-scale engagement with the Borg. That's actually a really nice memorial that they have set up there. There's a similar one in Romulan space for Romulus.
The Romulans were once a passionate, vibrant species, but the loss of their homeworld has left them in ashes. The survivors of the Cataclysm have gathered under the banner of Empress Sela. She has sought out new allies from the Delta Quadrant in an attempt to rebuild the Romulans' former might. And now, she seeks revenge for a lost world and a broken people.
So yeah, like I mentioned in I think the first video, Star Trek Online is set in the main timeline after the events that triggered the J.J. Abrams movie. So Romulus is gone, and there's a very similar memorial to that one in Romulus space that we'll see when it's actually time to start doing the Romulus missions. Okay, so as you can see here, enemy signal contact, those are basically the random encounters in the game. And they actually do level scale to a degree. So if I were to go into them as a max level character, the ships inside them will still be a decent challenge, but the way that whole system is designed, it's meant to be a group effort. And generally, all signal contacts in a whole sector block will be tied to the same map. The crystalline entity is basically a raid boss that you can choose to go into as well. And similar to enemy signal contacts, if I were to enter this map, I would be entering into a map that is available to multiple players, and you get automatically teamed up when you're in them. The mechanics behind what this is, I will explain when the first mission to actually engage one of these things opens up to me. But needless to say, the crystalline entity has been a fight that is almost unreasonably hard ever since the game has come out. And while Cryptic has made changes to make it easier, the biggest thing is just that the actual encounter is incredibly hostile to a random group. You need to actually go into it as a pre-built group in order to really be able to fight the boss. Anyway, but because I don't have to fight them, I'm just going to skip it entirely. Here we are in the space around Memory Alpha. For those guys who know about Star Trek, Memory Alpha is basically the biggest science and research hub of the Federation, and that's pretty much why we are here. Because we're gonna drop stuff off to do some science. Where? Also, this map has a few cameo characters around it. For example, one of the people here is Lieutenant Kiriyoshi O'Brien, which some people may recognize as being the son of Chief O'Brien. And there's someone else here. I'd have to look around and see who it was. There is another son or daughter of a famous Star Trek character that is around here that I would have to remember who it was, because I don't recall who it is offhand. But we're also going to be seeing another one. Actually, we're going to be seeing a few over the course of this series, but there's going to be a second one that we're going to see in this video alone. So anyway, we'll talk to the person we're actually here to see. So she just wants me to drop the sample into the deposit area and just report back. So, but the real reason we're here and why this is a tutorial is because this is actually covering the crafting system in Star Trek Online. As can be expected of a MMO, Star Trek Online does have a form of crafting, which for most of the game's lifespan was not really a very good system. It's significantly better now than it was, but it's still not really all that good. One of the biggest hassles is also that you have to come back here to Memory Alpha if you want to do any crafting at all. Now, Cryptic has been saying that they want to provide ways to let you do it on your ship, or at least be able to delegate it to your bridge officers or duty officers, which is a mechanic that I will cover once that unlocks for me. But until then, it's a single place that's kind of out of the way, and you don't really get much that's all that useful out of it. So right now, I'm just going to go and pick up some supplies so that I can do the initial patterns that I'm going to be building. Oh, and as part of picking up the materials, it's also going to teach me about scanning. Oh my goodness, pardon me. Alright, come on. Which one of these is actually going to let me scan? Oh, there it is. Okay. So, in order to get materials for crafting, you need to basically scan anomalous materials out in the world, or out in the world or out in space. And this little minigame is really just to let you get more or higher tier materials. It is entirely unrequired, but it can be a little fun. Anomalous materials will be identified out in space or on the world by this sort of icon, not this big object that's floating, but the actual. In fact, here's a. So this red bar and circle thing, like if you see that, then if you go close to that, you'll be able to scan and pick up some anomalous materials. So, because these ones are just cataloged ones, I don't need to do the minigame for them. And it's also pretty much just because I imagine they don't want to try and hack around something for them. Okay, now it wants me to pick up a schematic. And now that I've got all these, head back to the center area with the R&D stations, and then I can actually make the tutorial item. So there's basically 4 trees in R&D. In the right location. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, I wish it could have been. This map has not been changed since the game came out, and and so all these issues that you are seeing, like the one area for crafting looks the same as all the areas you can't interact with, has been in since the game came out. So anyway, when they last overhauled crafting in Star Trek Online, the way they made it work is that there is the idea of a schematic, and then the anomalies you require in order to produce the object. The reason they did this is because they changed the tiering and the trees, so to speak, such that you needed to get... first off, it was still possible for players to get tons and tons of the first tier of items and then have literally nothing to do with them. So when you make schematics, you actually make schematics using the first tier, the first tier anomalies. So it gives you something to actually use those for, even if you're going to get just absolute mountains of them. On top of that, it was something that allowed them to have a little bit more logic in what you're doing, because now you're just not taking these random things and just suddenly producing a weapon out of them. You're actually taking something that sort of already exists. So we'll actually get some default our choice of a schematic from doing this tutorial. I'll just take that one, and that ends the tutorial. So before I leave this planet, I'll just go back to the center area and show the interface a little more. But yeah, it makes the system flow a little better, because there was a lot of... It was very much not focused, and it just felt very slapdash. It's like something that they needed to have just because that's something all MMOs have. So it's nice that... So here, as an example, schematics. So, and on the side, that shows the level of skill that you need in order to be able to build whatever that is. So, for example, here... oh no, sorry, that's the amount of skill that building this thing will give you. And then down here it'll say how much skill you need in order to actually be able to build it. So, so for example, if I were to build any of these consumables, I will get 10 skill points from it. If I build any of these schematics, I'll get 10 general skill out of it. And then there's the day... Okay, so it used to be split into... So the way the skill points worked is that there actually used to be basically 3 tiers of skill points, which you can actually still kind of see if you look here at the map. So we have energy field research, physical science research, and technology research, and basically each one focused on different things. Like one focused on weapons, one focused on support items, and one focused on ship items, things like that. And they just sort of consolidated that into, here's just the one tree. But there's some quests here relating to these guys, so let's go see what these guys are up to, since I'm here. Oh, that's what it is. So these guys basically were vendors that sold the basic gear that was used for some of the modifications. A number of these patterns in the past used to require things like you're making a upgraded phaser rifle, so you actually needed a basic phaser rifle to modify using the anomalies, and then you'd have to come to these guys, buy the phaser rifle, and then go and actually make the pattern. So what this is, so they still do these things, like I can still buy the stuff from them, but they aren't always required as part of the crafting. So what this guy is asking me to do is just talk to his brothers, because they're here to try and do some business, and things aren't going very well. Oh, and hey, since I'm running by him, here's Lieutenant Kiriyoshi O'Brien, who is reminded of Deep Space Nine, and he wants something from back home, but I'm not going to be going back there anytime soon. So I'll just do that another time. Okay, there he is. Oh, and he has another quest. Oh, he wants someone to spread lies about his brothers. It's, typical Ferengi fashions. Oh, these guys. All three of them want me to do something. Oh, so this time, Markin, the fellow I was just talking to, is getting stolen merchandise. This just seems like... What is this guy? Oh, hey, this guy just wants to drop something over to K-7. I'm actually going to go to K-7 in a little bit, so I might as well take this item for him. So these missions are just very quick things that I can just run around Memory Alpha and complete. Because it doesn't matter how I handle this one where the fellow wants to spread lies about his brother. It doesn't really affect things in the end, but because I'm an honorable guy and not very Ferengi-like at all, I'm just going to report him. Hey. Yeah, so I can... Oh, and if I didn't want to generate my own schematic, I can just straight up purchase one. And now these ones here, unreplicatable materials, it is a mechanic that Cryptic put in to limit... So when you are crafting things, you are able to craft both odd and even level items, mark items, and as I think I mentioned in last video or the one before that, at each rank level, your the odd ones are the low tier and the even ones are the high tier. So for me, being at level 4, so my level bracket for 1 to 10, I can only use items that are Mark 1 or Mark 2. Now Mark 2, though, is clearly the higher tier items for my level and are more powerful. So if I wanted to, if they just let someone craft Mark 1 and Mark 2 items, for the most part, no one's going to bother making Mark 1 because, why bother? Like, you might as well just make the Mark 2 stuff because you can still use it at your rank and they're better. So they put in these unreplicatable materials as a limit on that to entice people to try and produce all types. Anyway, I'll just ask him about the stolen material. Okay, so he wants us to just inspect his merchandise, which, hey, I'll go do that. He said it was in the lounge. First, now I might as well report back to poor Quex saying that his brothers don't trust him. While I'm here, I'll get the merchandise sample as well. Yeah, so it's just showing that he is in fact on the up and up. And, it's also showing that his merchandise seems to be on the up and up as well. Now the lounge, where was that? I think that's over here. Oh, yep, here we are. There seems to be some smuggled goods in there as well. Okay. I'll head back to Markin, who is the real shady one of the trio, and report on the things that I found. Anyway, yeah, so I foiled his plans to try and kick his brother out and got some. So one of the things I got from that was something called diplomatic XP, and I'll go over that in more detail in a later update. Basically, when the thing that it applies to actually opens up to me, because right now it doesn't really matter. And both of his brothers are. Yeah, both of Quex's brothers are unfortunately surprised that he is such a straight arrow. Oh, Ferengi. Anyway, I'll just tell the commander about the illegal goods in Markin's shipment. And I'll just finish turning in these quests and then head off to do the last of the tutorials. Yeah, family is very important. Oh, I got stuck in geometry a little bit. Alright, and then tell Zell about the supplies. Okay, and I'm done here. So I could head back to the transporter pad and warp up, or I could just teleport out directly. And then leave the system. So you'll notice that this and in the 2 random missions, the ship sort of turned a little bit before it warped out. In an amusing bug that was in the game when it launched, it used to be that oops, got a little stuck on the ship park up there. The way it used to work was that your ship would basically turn towards a predefined exit point on any map and then warp. But this had unfortunate implications of, in some maps, it was entirely possible for you to turn towards a solid object and then warp right through it as you warped out of the map. So Cryptic changed the logic to be such that your ship will now turn towards an open space before it engages the warp drive, so it doesn't look like you're warping right through a planet or something. So this will take a while because going to Deep Space K-7 is, for intents and purposes, on the opposite end of the galaxy from where I am. One thing I really like is just the scale they have of all the ships in the game. You know, it just goes to show how different so many ships in this series are. Like, let's just look at how small the original Enterprise was compared to all these newer ships. Right, so K7 is down here in Eta Eritani, so this is going to take a while to travel down to. But yeah, it's like the scale of ships is very intentional. The ship designers for Star Trek Online made sure to have the scale be, except for some ships where the scale, or making it legit to the scale, would cause the engine or certain things to look sort of off. They endeavored to make all the scales as close to as close to show canon as possible. The main cases where they didn't are situations where, for example, the show canon is incredibly inconsistent about the size. Like, for example, when the game came out, there was a lot of debate about how big Deep Space Nine was in the game compared to how big it appeared in the show, and the model designer at the time basically had to respond with, "We know it's not quite right, but that's because we base it off of some of these scenes where if these scenes were staged and if this actually happened, it would not actually look this way. But because they had it look this way in the show, we sort of have to go with it anyway." So like some examples are scenes where, like, a Galaxy class is docked on a docking pylon, and due to the scale of size between a Galaxy class and Deep Space Nine, according to the actual technical manual for both, it wouldn't look the same. In fact, it would be a little bit on the awkward side. And then there's a few changes they made just for gaminess. Some of the ships and some of the stations are slightly bigger or slightly smaller than they should be, just to make the whole thing look right as a video game. But for the most part, the artists and modelers did their best to ensure that everything looked and scaled appropriately for the canon. And it's incredibly interesting to see the comparisons of such iconic ships as a result. While I'm flying around waiting, I got a bunch of skill points to spend, so I might as well take care of that. This was... okay. So put a bunch of points into that. And more points into weapons training. It's because I put a few points into warp coil, that would also minorly increase my travel speed out here in sector space. Not enough to really matter, but at least not at this level. I mean, once I get into higher tier ships, that increase will actually be a fair bit more noticeable. So engage deep space encounter. So if I wanted to go into that random encounter, I could, but not today. Oh, and the walls between sector blocks were also way more obvious before they made the change. Like, it was literally a straight up wall that had the name of the next sector written on it. It was very gamey. I mean, it made sense. I mean, it was a very obvious sign that this here is where the map...
lines of the Klingon Federation war, brave captains from both sides battle to defend their homes and gain advantages for their faction. Each death has meaning. Every victory can turn the tide. These are the conflicts that will determine the fate of the quadrant.
As I was saying, yeah, it made it very obvious that was the end of the sector block, but at the same time, like, it was very much out of place. Now, Eta Eridani is basically the PvP sector of the game. The majority of the planets here, if we were to go to them and enter them, you would actually be queuing up for various types of PvP matches. But because you don't need to actually go to these planets and then queue up for the battle, because there's an actual random queue that you can apply to, there's no requirement to. There's very little requirement to actually even come to this sector. That said, there are still reasons to be here. As you can see, why there are so many people still in this sector block, even though there's not much reason for it. Alright, but let's dock on K-7 and complete these tutorials. Alright. Alright, so first I've got a item here to drop off to the doctor. Oh, here we go. At the bar. This guy has a quest. What does he want me to do? Oh, nothing, because I am probably too low level. That's fine. Whoops. Apparently something in that shipment is causing a contagion throughout my ship. Well, I guess I might as well try to solve that. Because if I don't, the ship's not going anywhere. So this mission is one where I need to listen to what the fellow is saying, and then I'll be asked basically a quiz about the bacteria as I try to produce an antidote or a quarantine for it. So, you know, I was saying, hey, you should probably just call Memory Alpha and ask them about this. Oh, and there's a fellow here who I can trial any. Okay. Oh, come on. Alright, let's take a look at Saxon report, and this should be the last thing I need. Okay, so let's try this now. I want to try that. Alright, so that's what I want. Okay, and that's... Alright, and I need to... where's the person I need to see now? Alright, come on, where is it? Okay, no, he just wants to give me more advice on recovering from injuries again. Okay. Alright. Okay, come on, where do I need to talk to now? Okay, now I need to go... oh, where is that? Oh man, I'm having a hard time remembering what I need to do. Oh, no, there it is. There we go. Alright, there's our antigen. Now we get to apply it to the quartermaster and make sure that it is not going to kill anyone. And yay, I have solved the problem. Anyway, now that I've done that, let's actually deal with the main reason why I'm here at K-7. Talk to Commander Naomi Wildman, who some people may recognize as being the child from Star Trek Voyager. And this part of the tutorial session is pretty much here to tutorialize me on the various types of PvP you can get into, and I won't be getting into any PvP here, but I'll still finish off this quest. So the two guys that I'm going to be talking to here are basically going to be saying, hey, you know, we're in a war with the Klingons, you kind of need to come and help us, please. So there's two primary types of PvP in Star Trek Online. There is the defined space and ground PvPs, and those themselves are also split up into two main groups. One of which is just a straight up deathmatch style, and the other is more of a territory capture one. The other type of PvP is basically a competitive, co-op. There's some of the maps out here in Etra Eridani are basically structured much like normal missions. There's objectives that you need to complete, and the idea is to complete more of the objectives than the enemy squad does. But those ones are not normally seen in the PvP queues. In fact, you can't queue for them at all. If you want to do those missions, you actually have to go to the planet and do them manually. And as a result, they tend to be a little bit on the one-sided side, because you're not normally going to get an actual opposing side as you do them. But anyway, I've just got the end of this quarantine one is to call back. In fact, I don't even have to go back to Memory Alpha. I can just call them from here, because you know that's one of the really nice things that Star Trek Online does. So I can just call them, I'll get my rewards, and I'll level up. Hey, and because I've leveled up, so the level that I've just gained is one of the levels that gives me a new bridge officer. And I think, what do I need? Let me just take a look. I actually don't have any more space for another one, but I'll take another take another tactical for now. So, because I don't have any more space for any, they'll say, hey, I can train one of your guys, but I won't take him for now. Oh, and I got a new Mark II weapon and shield, which was pretty nice. So anyway, yep, that is it for this week's episode of Let's Play Star Trek Online. Thank you all for watching, and once again, if you guys have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please don't hesitate to post them in the thread or on my blog, where you can see this as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.